what are the most underrated by applicants parts of the applications, and how should they be viewed and treated?
So in my 20 years doing this in admissions, I would say that the most underrated, perhaps forgotten part of the application are the application boxes, the short answer questions, those questions that are not on the website, but that are on the portal once you go in and create your account. Those are usually the ones that are people pretty much tend to forget and leave to the last minute.
And what happens when they do that?
So what happens is that usually people take a lot of time which is wonderful, in their essays and resume and all the other elements of the application. And then on the 11th hour, when they're submitting everything, they find out that there are all these short answer questions with very tight character limit that are required. The problem with this happens is twofold. One is usually at this time, there is not much time left.
That's right.
So they're rushing. There's something that should not be rushed, because a lot of the times is what the admissions committee see first. They see the resume and they see these application boxes just to get a kind of a general, well-rounded picture of the applicant. So you don't want to rush anything, especially you don't want to rush these questions, these answers. Also, what happens is a lot of these questions ask about elements of the work experience, extracurricular, leadership, that many times have already been touched on in the essays. So the problem arises when, now all of a sudden they are repeating things they already said in the essays. Maybe they should not be repeated. So it is something that most definitely I tell all my clients to do, that as soon as they know that they are interested in a school, they're going to be applying to that school, to go in and create their account so they know exactly what that school asks. Get all those short answer questions, all those application boxes, if you will, put them into a Word doc or a Google Doc, and treat them as you would treat an essay in terms of answer them carefully. Make sure that you are answering within the character limit. These questions they have a very tight and very strict character limit. And when they say about 300 characters, we're not talking about 300 words. Like one client did for me one time, that she was writing 500 words. It was 500 characters, which is very different. And it is actually around 100 words, if you think about it. Right. And these characters usually include spaces. So you want to make sure that you're writing concise, to the point, answering all these questions, and you have them all answered. So by the time of the deadline comes in, you are 100% ready and you're not rushing any part of your application.
I just gave a webinar last night, and the point that I was making, very much to your point, was that the first thing applicants should do would be to list everything they're going to have to provide in the application, and strategically go through and say, what are you going to reveal in each response that's not found elsewhere? Because that's the way to approach it holistically, strategically, and make sure that they are making use of every character, every box, and every inch of application real estate.
Absolutely. That's what it is.
And that's why, by the way, I so loved your question.
When I started thinking, what is something that I wish everybody would know? It is this one, because not everybody knows. It is so easily forgotten. A lot of times it's because the schools list only their essays. So when you go into the school's requirements, you see the essays, but you don't see the short answer questions. So that is one thing. The other thing is, as you're writing your resume and putting together a resume, you don't need job duties and responsibilities and what you do on a day-to-day, because that is going to be asked in those short answers. So a lot of my clients, they send me that and they say, but I want them to get an idea of what I do, of my responsibilities. And that's when I send them to the short answers, and they're like, oh, yes, that's where I have that time. So there is a lot more that you can say in the applications that you might not think that you can, because of all those hidden boxes that you have there.
Hidden in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.